Hello, everyone. Welcome to Ask Us Anything, Renewals, Resignation, and Retirement. We'd like to start with a few housekeeping items. Please close all running applications. If your connection freezes, please exit GoToWebinar and then return to the session. Presentation video and slides will be published on CASLPO's website on the renewals page. You can enter questions in GoToWebinar during the presentation. If you don't see the questions section, please click on the orange arrow and you should get more options. Whoops. We will pause to answer questions throughout the presentation. If we don't answer your question during the presentation, we will respond after the webinar. So just to introduce myself, my name is Colleen Myrie. I'm the Director of Registration Services here at the college.
And my name is Dana Prucci. I'm the Director of Professional Practice and Quality Assurance.
Also online, we have Jessica Laforette. She will act as our online support and moderator. So she'll be moderating those questions. So we've outlined the presentation, all of the topics that we'll be discussing today. The first being renewal, then we'll talk about changing status. We'll go on to talk about resignation and retirement, and also professional liability insurance. And we'll also, of course, take any questions at the end of the presentation. Just to let you know that we have incorporated the questions that were sent to us in advance of the presentation into the presentation. So I'd like to thank everybody that sent us questions in advance. So our first topic is annual renewal. And the annual renewal process is an important part of the college's work as a regulator of audiologists and speech-language pathologists. The renewal helps the college provide valuable registrant information, enables CASLPO to keep our public register current, and also helps us to identify trends that we can use to make policy. All registrants of the college must renew no later than October 1st at 11:59 p.m. Eastern Daylight Savings Time using CASLPO's online renewal system to avoid penalty. With your annual fee, you renew your ability to practice audiology or speech-language pathology in Ontario during the registration period. So when we're talking about the registration year, the registration period runs from October 1st to September 30th each year. When you renew your registration this year, your certificate of registration will be valid from October 1st, 2022 until September 30th, 2023. So here's our first question that we got. What is non-practicing registration, or what does it mean? So the non-practicing certificate is suitable for an individual who has not practiced during the full registration period and wants to still have the protected title of audiologist, speech-language pathologist, or speech therapist. The non-practicing certificate is also available for a reduced rate, which is $390 per year. When you're using the non-practicing certificate or using the title, you must also add non-practicing, such as the example, Jane Doe audiologist non-practicing. So you must specify that with your title. If your job changes and you're unsure whether or not you should keep a general certificate or become a non-practicing registrant, you should refer to the college's definition of patient care and related work. We actually have that definition posted on our website in FAQ number 12. It's in the renewal section of the website. So the definition of patient care and related work, it starts out talking about direct patient care and what it includes, which is assessment and intervention, counseling and consulting, other patient intervention activities, also research involving direct patient interaction. It also includes supervision of direct patient care, so overseeing and evaluating clinical work, determining whether patients should be discharged, also supervision of research that involves direct patient interaction. Related work includes making decisions on an organization and delivery of clinical services, educating audiologists or speech language pathologists on services, technologies, or products, the administration of professional organizations, conducting or supervising research that does not involve direct patient interactions, teaching audiology or speech language pathology students, overseeing clinical practicums. So that's all part of either patient care or related work as defined by the college. So here's another question. If I take on a new role, such as a manager or community care coordinator, what type of registration is required? So if the role involved any of those activities listed in the definition of patient care related work, you must maintain a general certificate. Usually, the role, if it requires you to use your professional knowledge and skills, it's likely that some of those activities would be things that you would do. So what happens if I don't renew? So when somebody does not renew, a 20% late fee is added if they don't renew by the deadline of October 1st at 11:59 p.m. A notice of intention to spend will be sent out to the person who does not renew, and they will be given 30 days in which to complete their online renewal, or if they don't wish to stay a member of the college, they would have to resign from the college formally. Sorry, if those fees are not paid within that 30-day period, then that registrant's certificate is suspended. And when a certificate is suspended, that information is reflected on the public register and their employer is notified. So our next topic is changing status. So changing status refers to the transition from one category of registration to another. And the only status change that occurs without a request being submitted is a change from initial to general. If you would like to change your certificate to another status, you must submit a request to the college. When you request to change a status with your renewal, it is not an automatic change. Somebody on staff must review that change and ensure that you're meeting all of the registration requirements before that change is made. So another question is, if I wish to change from a general certificate to a non-practicing certificate, what do I need to do? So if you request a change of status from general to non-practice with your renewal, you will be given the option of having the new status take effect either October 1st or November 1st. So if you choose October 1st, you are then non-practicing as of October 1st, and you do not, you're not permitted to practice from then on for the remainder of the registration period. If you choose November 1st, what happens is your general certificate remains active for the month of October, and then your non-practicing status will take effect on November 1st, and you'll be non-practicing for the remainder of the registration period. So you must pay an additional fee of $33 in order for your general certificate to remain active for that 1 month period. So when you become a non-practicing registrant, you are not required to hold professional liability insurance, although we would say that if you hold personal professional liability insurance and you cancel it for the time that you're non-practicing, if it's a temporary, you're temporarily non-practicing, you may also eliminate your coverage for the time that you hold that professional liability insurance. So if a patient was to decide to sue, you would not be covered. So although the college does not require non-practicing registrants to hold professional liability insurance, we would say you should use your professional judgment on whether to let it go. If you're non-practicing for many years, you might decide that you no longer need to hold it. Also, you're not required to take part in the quality assurance program. So that includes the self-assessment tool and peer assessment. However, if you have been doing your continuous learning activity credits and you would like to record those credits in the tool, we would say go ahead. You don't need to complete the SAT in order to record your CLACs because it is your SAT. So you just may want to keep track of that education that you've done. If you renew as a general registrant and then later wish to change your status to non-practicing after November 1st in the year, you will not receive a refund for the fees that you paid for your general certificate for that year. Additionally, there is an administrative fee of $150 for changes of status that are completed after November 1st. If you wish to change your status from non-practicing to general, what do you do? So for this kind of change from non-practicing to general, you are also given a couple of options for when that new status takes effect. You can have it take effect on September 1st or October 1st. So because September 1st is before the next registration period starts, you will have to pay a small fee to have your certificate active before that new period starts. And again, that's $33 to have it active in the month of September instead of the month of October. So if you go back in October, there are no extra fees. You would just pay for the coming registration period. So as a general registrant, you must have professional liability insurance, and you must also take part in the quality assurance program, which includes completing the self-assessment tool, and peer assessment. And of course, CLACS. However, I believe when you come back, you just have to do 3 learning goals, and you still have the full year to obtain those 15 CLACS. So if you renew as a non-practicing registrant and request a change of status to general after November 1st, you would have to pay some additional fees. So there is that application fee that has to be paid, and you also have to pay the difference between the non-practicing and the general annual fee. So that currently is $390. So those are the fees that would be paid if you change your status after November 1st. So our next question is, I am on paternal leave. What kind of renewal is required? So because of the fees associated with transitioning back and forth mid-year, and because parental leaves don't often fall on our registration period so that you can take advantage of the non-practicing certificate, mostly people that are on parental leave maintain their general certificate while they're on leave. This means that they must also submit their SAT in January and maintain professional liability insurance coverage while on leave. So if you hold a general certificate and you will be on leave for the entire registration year, that's October 1st, 2022 until September 30th, 2023, or if you are returning to work in September 2023, then changing your status to non-practicing during your parental leave is an option for you. However, if you are an initial registrant, you are not eligible for a non-practicing certificate. So if you are an initial registrant and you wish to take a maternity leave while you're still completing your mentorship, you will have to apply for an extension of your mentorship. And it will be likely that you would sign an undertaking just to spell out exactly how what you need to do when you return to work. You should also note that the initial certificate may only be extended up to 24 months from the date it is issued. So if you choose to change your status for 2022, 2023 to non-practicing, here are the requirements to reinstate your general certificate in 2023, 2024. So you must have provided 750 hours worth of patient care or related work or any combination of them during the last 3 years, or you must complete any further education, training, or examinations, or any combination of them that's specified by a panel of the registration committee. So if you have not provided 750 hours of patient care related work in the last 3 years, you should apply to change your status at least 4 to 6 months before you intend to return to work, because a panel of the registration committee has to determine what education, training, or exams are required to reinstate your general certificate, and it does take time to go through that registration committee review process. So, you know, the earlier you can start it, the better. All right. So, I guess if we have any questions.
Yes, Yes, we do. So my first question that just came through is, I don't intend to practice, and I'm wondering if I can change from non-practicing to practicing if the situation changes.
So again, you do have that option, but um, just know that if you uh, become non-practicing at renewal and you change mid-year, there are fees associated with changing back. So you can do it, but you end up spending more for the registration period than had you just maintained a general certificate for the entire year.
Perfect. My next question is, what are the benefits of having a non-practicing registrant?
I guess the non-practicing certificate, I'm not sure I would call it a benefit, but it's just that you're not having to participate in the quality assurance program. And I guess if you are not, if that's something that will be a burden to you during your non-practicing time, then that would be, I guess, a benefit.
Awesome. And I have another question. Oh, hold on. If I register as non-practicing but return to work in September 2023, do I have to complete CLACS and the SAT in 2023?
Do you want to take that, Dana?
Sure, that sounds like a good quality assurance one. So to make sure I understand, this means that you're non-practicing in 2023. So you'd be renewing now as non-practicing. So in January 2023, the next time the self-assessment tool comes out, you do not have to complete it because you're non-practicing. And so that means that in the following year, if you become general again in September, October, then you'll have the January 2024 SAT to complete. And at that time, you won't have CLAPS from the previous year. You won't have any learning goals because you didn't do the SAT, and that's fine. And the computer, the whole program should work that way. And if for some reason it doesn't, you can get in touch with quality assurance and we'll make the changes. So the short answer is, when you're non-practicing, you don't have to come up with learning goals and CLAPS.
Wonderful. I think I have one more. This one is, I don't know if this pertains to this section, but Colleen, maybe you can help me. I have a question. I just lost it. Hold on. Ooh, sorry, guys. I have a question about the new policies relating to multiple registrations. I'm also registered in Saskatchewan and would like to know the procedures to do this. I think they are speaking about the cross-provincial practice
Yes.
license. And I believe this pertains to renewal because Ontario will need to be completed first as Saskatchewan renews in December.
Sure. So basically, when you are, if you want to take advantage of the cross-provincial practice license or certificate, you have to, I guess, the province where you are practicing the most should become your home province. And the province where you might be doing, say, less than 200 hours worth of patient care would become the province where you seek the cross-provincial practice license. So if you are practicing the most in Ontario, you should maintain your general certificate, and then you can resign from the college in Saskatchewan for instead of renewing, and apply for their CPP license so that you will have that that registration. However, if you are practicing mostly in Saskatchewan and you only provide 200 hours or less of practice in Ontario, you could resign from the college and apply for CPP license in Ontario. And so if that's the case, if you want to have that CPP license in Ontario, you should contact our CPP at CASLPO.com and request an application package, and you can just apply for that license. But note that for renewal, you'd be resigning your CASLPO certificate because Saskatchewan would be your home province, and you would have the home province of Saskatchewan and a CPP license for Ontario.
I just have one more question.
Mhm.
Will the hours of full-time work outside of Canada be considered from the 750 hours in 3 years for CASLPO renewal?
So yes, so if you are, say, maintaining a general certificate and practicing outside of Ontario, you can use those hours to maintain your general certificate. Or if you are, say, practicing in another jurisdiction and you are holding a non-practicing certificate in Ontario, you can use those hours to, when you're changing your status back to general in Ontario, to say that you've provided that patient care. But you know, in some situations, we might ask you for additional documentation to actually prove that you have actually been practicing in that other jurisdiction. So, okay.
Do I have time for one more, or do we need to move on?
I think let's move on, and we
Okay.
can see if we can answer them later on. Can you see my screen now?
Yep, we can see it, and I think I have control, which is perfect.
Okay, great.
Thank you, Colleen.
Okay, so oh, you had control? I guess I need control.
Here we go. There we go. Okay, I do now. Thank you so much. Okay, so the next part we're going to talk about resigning and retiring, and especially thinking about this with my, oh, I think you just took away the screen.
Sorry.
That's okay. So we'll think about this with the quality assurance and professional practice advice hat on. So just wanted to be very clear on the terminology. So resignation is when you leave CASLPO, you choose to leave the profession of audiology or speech language pathology. So you're no longer going to be practicing, and you can no longer call yourself an audiologist or speech pathologist. This may happen at the same time as you retire from your career, or if you see yourself leaving Ontario for a substantial amount of time. Oops. So again, just to reiterate, you can no longer use the protected terms of audiologist and speech language pathologist. So when you resign, you couldn't call yourself, say, Dana Prucci, speech language pathologist, retired, because it's a protected title. If you resign and then return to Ontario, you'll have to reapply. You might have to write the exam, but definitely keep your options open. If you're moving to another province, then you should speak with registration about whether to resign, because labor mobility might make this an easier process. On the other hand, we also have retirement. And so retirement is very workplace specific. Retire is when you could retire from your job and work elsewhere, or open a private practice. And this is different from resigning, where you're leaving the college and can no longer call yourself an audiologist or speech pathologist. When registrants retire from their positions but maintain their CASLPO registration, you can still call yourself an audiologist, you can still call yourself a speech pathologist, and as a general or academic registrant, you still have the duties that Colleen mentioned before, like the self-assessment tool, maintaining insurance, and also complying with all the practice standards, but you also have the rights, such as the use of the titles, speech pathologist or audiologist, and also to provide intervention and billing as one of those professions. So we had a great question that said, I'm resigning before October 1st. What steps do I need to take? So as Colleen mentioned, you need to let CASLPO know. So that might be sending an email or completing the change of status section in the renewal or going into the registrant portal. On the other hand, again, thinking about practice advice, we'd want to make sure that you're closing your practice properly. This might depend if you work for a bigger organization like a school board or a hospital. A lot of these things are well taken care of. We really want to look at your files and think about what your plan is. So if you're in the school board or a large organization, your files are taken care of. You don't need to worry about them. On the other hand, if you're in private practice or in a small practice, it's really important that you remember that your records need to be stored for 10 years following the last professional contact that you have, or 10 years after the patient turns 18, whichever is longer. So you have to maintain your records, or you need to make sure that someone else will. You also want to be careful not to orphan your patients. So inform your patients that you are resigning, and you can give them, or you should give them, a list of other registrants that they can contact. So that might be a list with some names and contact information, or directing them to the SAC private practice list and the CASLPO register so that they can look up some new registrants as well. And all of this is on the website under resignation, as you see here. And then just some other notes about resignation. Former registrants are still subject to the college's jurisdiction in cases of alleged professional misconduct or incompetence for their conduct during the period of time when they were registered. There's no time limit for when a complaint can be filed against a former registrant. So resignation will not prohibit the college from investigating a former registrant's alleged professional misconduct or incompetence. A complaint can still be brought against you and investigated. So this also brings up the question of professional liability insurance. Should you be keeping it once you resign? So it might depend on the work that you're doing, but it definitely means you need to use your professional judgment. There are some colleges that recommend keeping insurance for a number of years after resigning. CASLPO doesn't have any requirements this way, but one idea would be to check with your insurance to see if there is a tail end clause available. So we can now take some questions. One of the reasons we wanted to include this was after the fireside chat with Brian O'Riordan, we had so many questions about retiring and resigning. I'm not sure if there are any others that have come up now, Jessica.
Yes, I have one, and it is, how could retired and resigned registrants continue to contribute to the profession?
So I can take that one. It's such a good question. If you've resigned, you've given so much of your time and so much of your heart to your profession, and I think it would be very difficult to just walk away from that. So you can do something related. Perhaps if you work with pediatric populations as a speech pathologist or audiologist, maybe you'll choose to sit on the board of a childcare. And so you can share your knowledge. You have all this amazing expertise and knowledge, and you can share it with the board, but you can't call yourself a speech pathologist or audiologist. You can't hold yourself out that way. You can say that you worked as a speech pathologist in the past or an audiologist, but you can use all of this knowledge you have to help direct perhaps the way the early literacy skills will be going in the daycare. So you can find something that is that speaks to you and to your experience, but you just need to be sure that you're not calling yourself one of the protected titles.
Thank you, Dana. The next question I have is regarding non-practicing. Sorry. Is there a maximum time or a minimum time that you can be a non-practicing registrant?
I think where that kind of consideration comes into play is with respect to the providing 750 hours worth of patient care related work. So that is the measure for transitioning between the non-practicing and the general category. So the longer that you're away from patient care and related work does affect your transition back to the general certificate. So for shorter absences, you meet that 750 hour requirement, you just go straight back to the general certificate. for if, say, you are non-practicing for between 3 to 5 years and you haven't done any patient care related work, your application goes to the registration committee for consideration, and they would determine the requirements for you to return to your general certificate. And most commonly, it would be mentorship. You would have to complete a mentorship period in order to return to work. For longer absences from professional practice, the consideration of the CETP exam would be something that you might have to do before returning to work, as well as mentorship. So you should keep that in mind. The longer that you're away from work, the more terms and conditions you might have on your return to work.
Right. And I have another question that's, what happens if I retire from my job but continue to participate in the profession? Do I still maintain registration as a general practitioner? How do I accrue enough hours?
Okay, so if you resign from your job but you still intend to provide patient care related work, you would have to maintain a general certificate. And so, you know, we do say that, of course, that 750 hours of patient care or related work is required over a 3-year period. And, you know, if you're doing the minimum of patient care and related work, it's about a day a week over the entire year. So if you're falling below that during the year, you would not have to get rid of your general certificate. However, you would be, you may be called for a peer assessment if you no longer meet the requirement of 750 hours over the last 3-year period. So that is generally what happens when somebody falls below that requirement. Dana, do you have anything to add?
No, I think that covered it. So if you retire from your job, but you still want to stay part of the college, it's just about those hours that Colleen was talking about. And it's actually not very hard to get those hours if you're volunteering, if you're working somewhere else, you have a few clients, and it gives you that equivalent over 3 years, then you're fine.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay.
That's all the questions I have pertaining to that section.
Okay, I will, do I have control now? All right. So the next section that we're going to talk about is professional liability insurance. So audiologists and speech language pathologists in Ontario must maintain professional liability insurance coverage in accordance with CASLPO bylaw number 6. And if a registrant does not have professional liability insurance, they must obtain coverage within 30 days of receiving notice from the registrar. So if the college discovers that you don't have insurance, you will receive this notification to get it within 30 days. And if you have not, if you don't comply, your certificate of registration will be suspended. When you are maintaining professional liability insurance, the best thing to do is to have a copy of your certificate of insurance in your record somewhere. But if you are covered by your employer, you might not have that document, but you should get the following information from your employer about your insurance. So of course, the name of the insurance provider, the policy number, the name of the insured. If it's your employer, then usually they have something called additionally insured, who the employer has designated as insured under the policy. And you should know specifically what that says in the policy and if you're covered. And also you should know the policy period. And also you must know whether or not the policy provides professional liability insurance and provides at least $2 million per claim. So those are the minimum requirements of what we want to see if we do ask you to submit proof of your insurance. We want to get all of this information about your policy to ensure that it complies with CASLPO bylaw number 6. So the question is, should I get professional liability insurance? Or where can I get professional liability insurance? So professional liability insurance coverage may be obtained through your professional association, such as SAC or CAA. So you can obtain it through one of those associations, or if you're not a member of one of those associations, it is your responsibility to ensure that your professional liability insurance coverage meets the requirements of CASLPO bylaw number 6. You know, oftentimes you can get insurance coverage simply by doing a Google search for insurance. But you should note that the college does not endorse or approve insurance providers used by our registrants, and registrants are responsible for conducting their own research, and you can do business with any insurance provider that best suits your needs. Okay, so do we have any further questions, Jessica?
Yes. So my first question on insurance is, I am working for a hospital and my employer covers my insurance. I'm thinking of starting my own part-time private practice in the coming months, and I'm wondering if I need to get my own insurance to cover me for that.
Definitely. Your insurance from your employer only protects you when you're working at a setting related to your employer. And if you're doing private practice, you need your own insurance.
Okay, that was the only question I really had about insurance.
Okay,
would you like me to move on to other questions?
If there are other questions, we'd be happy to answer them.
There are. So one of these questions was, what if I keep my general practice but do not provide 750 hours next year?
Okay, so you have to keep in mind that it is not a yearly requirement. So if, for instance, somebody has been general and they've been practicing full time, and then for whatever reason, they can no longer practice for a period of time, usually they can still respond that they have met the 750 requirement over the 3-year period. People can often, if they've provided 750 hours in a single year, they can take 2 years off and provide absolutely no patient care or related work and still meet that requirement of 750 hours over a 3-year period. So keep that in mind. However, if you definitely have fallen below the standard of 750 hours over 3 years, what would happen is that you would be referred for peer assessment.
And I wanted to add also that the reason that there are 750 hours, we call them currency hours. And I always thought like currency kind of sounds like money, but it's not. The currency hours are to remain current. And if you remember that the college's purpose is to protect the public, the reason that you need to do these hours and to be practicing is so that you're current and that your skills, your knowledge, your skills, your judgment, everything is up to date, because that's how we can protect the public. And so peer assessments, I know that they sound big and that they sound scary, but it's really just showing that you have the knowledge, skills, and judgment, and that you're ready to practice again. If there's anything that you are falling below the standard on, then the peer assessor will help you so that you'll be ready to practice again.
Thank you. All right. 1 second, sorry. The next question I have is, would you be able to talk about an academic membership at all?
Just, an overview of the academic status is that the academic status requires that you have an appointment to either teach or conduct research in an academic setting or post-secondary institution. So that is kind of the requirement of the academic certificate, but it also limits you from only practicing within that academic setting. So if you wish to practice, if you are teaching at a university and also providing care at a hospital outside of that academic appointment, you need to hold a general certificate rather than an academic, because the academic status does limit you to only that academic setting. I guess I'm thinking, is there anything else about the academic certificate?
I think you covered everything, but if you have any other questions pertaining to that, you can always email registration@caslpo.com and we can answer your question there.
Okay.
My next question is, I am thinking about taking a year off and changing to non-practicing. What can I still do as a speech language pathologist?
Well, when you're non-practicing, you would not be practicing. So, yeah, that's you're not doing anything as a speech language pathologist when you're non-practicing. If you wish to continue, seeing clients while you're on some sort of leave, you should maintain that general certificate.
Thank you, Colleen. If I decide to retire from the profession and resign from CASLPO, and shortly after doing so, I change my mind because I still want to practice, are there any ramifications? What would I need to do to become registered again with CASLPO in order to practice?
Yeah, so definitely huge ramifications depending on your circumstance. So there are, for people that are becoming registered with the college who have a certificate in another regulated jurisdiction in Canada, we have what's called labor mobility provisions that make it easy to go from one province to the next, as long as you're in good standing in that other province. And when you are coming back to Ontario through labor mobility, you do not have to write the CETP exam. And so that would take care of that. But if you say decide to let your CASLPO registration go and you're not registered in any other jurisdiction in Canada, then that requires that you reapply for CASLPO registration. and you have to meet all the current registration requirements. So we often have to do a review of your transcripts, and if you were internationally educated, you would have to resubmit a lot of documentation and get it assessed again. And also you would have to write the CETP exam. So keep that in mind. If you are resigning, be sure that that's the course that you want to take. If you are unsure, be non-practicing for a year at least while you make that decision to permanently resign.
Thank you, Colleen. My question is, do you have any suggestions related to formulating SAT goals and obtaining education credits while on leave?
Okay, that's a good question. I'm going to take that one because I think it's very quality assurance related. So it's good that you're thinking about this, especially with the SAT, even though it comes up in January. And so there are certain, if you do the SAT and you choose non-clinical because you're still general, but you're not practicing, well, actually, so you want to do the SAT that you'll be coming back to. So if you're returning to a clinical position, then you can do the clinical one. If you return to a non-clinical position, then you'd be doing the non-clinical SAT. And as far as choosing learning goals, there's a few things. Think about what will help you get back into the swing of things when you return to work. So it might be something along the lines of staying current with CASLPO practice standards and regulations. Maybe you know that you're going to be taking a course towards the end of your leave when you're coming back, and you think, well, I'm really excited to learn more about whatever the topic is. That could be a good learning goal. I'm happy to talk to you individually. You can send me an email or to anyone on the practice advice or quality assurance team, and we'll help come up with some ideas. But they can be, we don't want them to be too general. They still need to be SMART goals, but we want it to be something that's achievable while you're not working, and also something that'll help you get back into the brain of work when you're back.
Thank you, Dana. I have another question. I am a new employee. This person is a registrant and is a new employee with a company, very recent hire. They have not started visiting clients directly yet, but they are in orientation and training process by the employers, and very recently received referral for clients and dealing with related matters with clients, case coordinators. Is this considered to be direct work or related work?
I don't know, Dana, do you have an answer to that?
I'm not entirely sure that I understand the question. I think it
Okay, let me
So
ask it again.
So I think some of the things to consider is if this is a new grad who is in their mentorship period.
No, it's not a new grad.
Okay. So if you're concerned about whether those hours would be related or direct, as far as counting your 750 hours for currency, it doesn't really matter. You can take a little of column A and a little of column B just to get to 750. I'm hoping that's the answer, or that's the answer that you're looking for, because it's not like you need to clarify what kind of hours you have, that they're direct or that they're related. But if that didn't answer your question, then please, again, feel free to reach out.
Oh, for sure. My next question is, can related hours for SLP include board work as an SLP on advisory committees or boards?
Yes, I guess there is one thing called professional associations, like work with professional associations, that falls into that category of related work. So definitely.
Okay, sorry, I'm just 1 second. Do client discussions done as part of a mentorship count as direct client hours as a mentor, not the mentee?
Sorry, could you repeat that, Jessica?
Yeah, the question is, do client discussions done as part of a mentorship count as direct client hours? Or more broadly, when you're working with your mentee as a mentor, does that count as patient care hours or direct or indirect hours?
I would think they would count.
This might be a question that we would bring Sumita Joglekar, who's the manager of mentorship, in, because she would be better able to speak to that. So I think if it's okay, we will send you an email afterwards and respond to that question directly through her, because she'll have better answers than we would.
Absolutely.
Oh, I do have one last question before we end, if that's okay. The question is, what happens if you, oh, I lost it. Oh, sorry. What happens if you have not been able to achieve the CLAC that you set out in January? If my other CLACs sum up to 15 hours, is that okay?
Yep, so again, I'll take this for quality assurance. Absolutely, it's a total of 15 hours, and you come up with 3 goals, but you don't have to target all 3 of those goals. You can always carry one over to the next year if you didn't achieve CLACs in it, or if you think you still have more to learn. You can carry them over. We don't recommend carrying them over for too long, because it probably means that goal isn't the best goal for you. But you also can add new goals every year. The example I always give is in January 2020, I did not have any goals on virtual care because I didn't think virtual care could work, and it didn't seem like the kind of practice I wanted to have. And then suddenly in March and April 2020, I needed to switch over, and I needed to learn a lot about virtual care. So I added a goal on virtual care. I spent a lot of hours learning how it works and the best approaches. So some of the goals that I had actually laid out for myself in January, I didn't get to touch, at least not for a while.
Thank you. So I believe that we're running out of time, and those are all the questions we'll be able to take today. However, if we did not respond to your question, we will via email once in the next week or so, once the webinar is finished.
Okay. So, whoops, just gonna show my screen again. And so thank you all for participating in this webinar today. And we'd like to thank you and say that we have a Facebook page that we'd like to ask you to join if you can or if you want to. And also we have many YouTube videos available as well. And of course, visit our CASLPO website at CASLPO.com. A lot of information is on the website, especially about these renewal questions that you might have. We have a bunch of renewal FAQs and information about the self-assessment tool as well, and quality assurance if your interest lies in that area. So, both Dana and I are available as well. If you have questions that you didn't put in the chat, you can always email us. Okay, and again, just to reiterate that the slides in the webinar will be available on our website probably by the end of the week. And I guess that's all for today. So thank you for joining us.
Great. Thank you so much, everybody. There will be a short survey to complete after this webinar closes. We would love some feedback, what helped, what else would you still like to see? Thank you so much.